Hi, it's Shawn. Welcome to my channel. I am the Divine Feminine Abolitionist, and we are free. One of the quotes that I use on this channel a lot is attributed to Einstein. And Einstein was a master of harnessing energy. And in as such, he had an extremely vast consciousness. And he's quoted with saying that you cannot fix a problem from the same consciousness that created it. So harnessing energy is a form of alchemy. You take something in one particular form and you harness it to have a greater value or more abundant use, etc., etc. So if we look at, because right now we're working with justice and judgment, and justice being representative of divine masculine, or masculinity operating from its divinity, or if justice is not enacted, masculinity enacted in its distorted masculinity. And this has nothing to do with gender. So masculinity and femininity taking outside of the text of gender or the understanding or the consciousness of gender, because it's not about that. It's about essence. It's about energy. And I believe what separated us from Ankh, life force, divine intelligence, was the consciousness of ego. Ego consciousness evolving itself and planting seeds of a false knowledge about what wasn't true, giving some, creating fear, false evidence appearing real. Ego is very good at doing that. False evidence appearing real, creating fear. Fear is the main elemental tool of ego. So when we think about justice and enacting it, a lot of times on this channel I say do no harm. I tell people that when you return to sender somebody's energy that was intended to harm you, return it as their weapon, as a tool, because we have a responsibility. And a lot of times people see that activity, just like with Yeshua. They saw when he said, turn the other cheek or bless those who despitefully use you, as a sign of weakness, that this is something that indicates weakness or that the inability to protect yourself or to defend yourself, when in actuality it is extreme power to harness forgiveness in a way that you return to a person what they sent to them as a tool. And I will give you an example of, just because you give somebody a tool and you intend it, my intention is I'm sending you forgiveness, I'm sending you grace, I'm returning what you sent to me, because what I'm saying is what you sent to me is not going to affect me in the negative way. I won't allow it to do that, because I'm going to act in my authority, which is also an essence of masculine divinity, is authority. It has nothing to do with gender. It's essence. So masculine in its divinity is authority. So I am the authority of my life. I am the authority because I am the one who was given the gift of this life, which means that I have a responsibility to protect it. So if you show up as enemy, then what you're saying to me is you're going to use everything in your arsenal to take me down. I got it. I'm not going to dispute that. That's what enemies do. You know what I mean? It's not personal to us. When people can see, because people are walking around in states of war all the time and in acting as if they need to conquer this or conquer that person or whatever. Like, people are consciously in ego states of mind. Ego states of mind is always in division. It's always trying to conquer and divide. It's always trying to exert itself as dominant energy. It always is. I mean, it just can't do anything else because ego doesn't exist in a state of peace and harmony. It just can't even conceptualize. Ego is, if you're not for me, with me, then you are against me. And if you're against me, then I'm going to see you as an enemy and I'm going to treat you as such. And I'm going to try to annihilate you. I don't need to make sense of why I need to annihilate you. I can just say, I don't like the color of your skin, so I'm going to annihilate you. I could just say, I don't like the fact that you are a woman, so I'm going to annihilate you. I don't like the fact that you are an outspoken woman. I'm going to annihilate you. I don't like the fact that you wrap your hair up. Who do you think you are to wrap your hair up? I don't like the fact that you don't succumb to me looking at you in scorn, that it doesn't make you lower your head. I don't like the fact that you are not out here 24/7 working like a dog and I don't like that. I don't like that, so I'm going to annihilate you. You have become my enemy because in my mind, I need to have enemies in order to exist. That's what ego does. So this ideology of returning to center and creating the alchemy of, this is what the alchemy is. I choose to not be your prey. I choose to not be your prey. I choose to not allow your weapons to annihilate me because I am the authority of my life. So I am responsible for protecting myself. And you're fighting me with everything in your arsenal. And everything in your arsenal is privilege, entitlement. You have the law of the land on your side. You have wealth. You have all of these things at your arsenal, which you are using, which you have used for centuries and centuries and decades. And you even have this ideology of the supreme being in your arsenal that you say, hey, God is on my side. God looks like me. God is me. God is my gender. God gave me the authority to make you my enemy, to enslave you, to miseducate you, to, if you have ever seen Les Miserables, I always mispronounce that, by Victor Hugo. It's a book. It's about this man who stole bread, and he was sentenced to do really hard time for so many years, and he escaped. And in escaping, he energy attached itself to him that considered itself to be a just, it was a law enforcement agent who was responsible for, conducting the law. And this person over decades and time would keep showing up and was just hunting this person over the fact that he stole a loaf of bread. And then everything he did when he escaped was for the good. Like, he transformed his life because somebody gave him redemption. He went to like a priest or something, and he was about to be stealing from the priest to get away. And the priest said, you don't have to steal from me. I give you these things. I give you these things. And I say, redeem your life because you are not in the bondage of, this archetype of saying you have to hurt people because somebody hurt you. Because the justice system failed him. That he was living in France at the time when of Napoleon and Marie Antoinette, when there was so much opulence among the royals and the people were starving and they were just taxing the people, and he was hungry. He stole some bread. So anyway, the whole point is, like, this the inspector just kept hunting him. And so at one point he just was like, he made his life in a way that he was like, I'm just going to surrender to you. I'm just going to surrender to you because I don't want to live the rest of my life being chased and hunted by you when I know that I'm worthy of much more, when I know that I have done my best to transform my life into a citizen or somebody who was good, who did something. And that guy knew, his spirit was so, I can't change who I am. Like, I can't change the fact that I'm going to hunt you. So he committed suicide. The one who was, coming after him and chasing him for so long, he committed suicide. So the alchemy, what happened was, I can't, for whatever reason, I can't think of the character's name, and I love that book. But anyway, the character who was being chased had come face to face with this person who considered him his enemy and said, I'm not going to do this thing with you anymore. I surrender. Here, take me and you win. And because this other character, the one who was chasing him, had gotten so in bondage of the chase, of making somebody its enemy. He had made him his enemy, and he couldn't live with the fact that this person was saying, I'm not your enemy, because that's the only consciousness that so he ended up, all these years that he'd been chasing him, trying to inflict all of this pain and just trauma and just all of the stuff that he was trying to inflict on this one guy. He just ended up taking his life because he couldn't live in the world as anything other than a predator. He couldn't do it. And so when he was faced in the place of, okay, I see who you are, this is who I am, and he had to face that, and he had to face himself as, I am a predator for no reason whatsoever other than the fact that I love to inflict pain. I'm miserable. I am miserable, and I have done this thing because of my own misery. It has nothing to do with the person I've been chasing. I am a miserable creature. So anyway, like, people who take in the mind of, they're going to be war. Like, and he had the law on his side. He had, influence and all of this stuff. And in the very end, he took his own life. And I brought that up to say, when Yeshua was like, don't worry about what other people are doing. Let's look at him and Judas. The most incredible betrayal that you can have is somebody that you have loved, somebody that you have trusted, somebody that you have given the bag to, every resources, because, Judas was the bag man. Judas was the one who held the finances together for the ministry of Christ. And even though he came from a background of being scandalous, Christ loved Judas. And they were friends, and they were comrades, and they were on this journey together. And Judas witnessed everything. And so Judas' spirit of competition, Judas' spirit of jealousy, of envy, of treasonous mindset, of being seduced by what was allegedly the crowd or the people of authority, made Judas, and Judas's own will, Judas decided to do this thing. But because everything blesses us when we're in divinity, whatever Judas did ultimately blessed Christ, because Judas's name is forever listed as a betrayer. Just the name Judas itself means enemy, or someone who has acted in an enemy state in terms of the consciousness that brings up. I mean, that's not what his name originally meant, but that's what's assigned to his name now. And what's assigned to the name of Yeshua is a whole different bag. So I said all that to say is, in not harboring ill will towards Judas and not having hatred, what did Judas do with when Christ returned Judas' energy? With a kiss and with permit and saying, hey, bless you, do what you got to do, and let's get it, let's move on to the next. I got stuff to do. Like, I need to ascend. I don't have time to be wasting in this low energy of your guilt, your, you giving me a performance of what you think you need to say and blah, 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 blah. Just do what you got to do. So the betrayal happened. Judas ended up killing himself, is my whole point of saying that. And it was like, was the mind of Christ focusing on Judas' need to go and kill himself? No. The mind of Christ was working on ascension, not even thinking about Judas, because everything that people do who put themselves in a position to go against the light, or people who are working in their divinity, is going to bless them, period, point blank. So this is card 11. And for me, 11 has always been a very mystical number. And it definitely is a number of balance. And, it can represent the scales. It's a number of divinity in so many ways. But, so here we have Dr. Buzzard. And I'm going to read the scripture that comes with this, which is Ezekiel 25:17. And I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebuke, and they shall know that I am the Lord when I shall lay my vengeance upon them. Okay, so I told you that in the Hoodoo Tarot, Tayana uses a lot of scriptures from the Christian Bible. And again, it's a code system. So you can use it as a mystical decoding system to give you information and to help you connect with divine or not. It is what it is. That's what I use it for. So I'm going to read a little bit from it. It says the image. Dr. Buzzard is standing in front of a courthouse, laughing joyously after winning a case for a client. Behind him is Lady Justice, wearing a Congo witch doctor mask similar to the one Dr. Buzzard's father would have worn in Africa. This symbolizes domination and being a law unto oneself. Instead of the sword, Lady Justice is holding a bouquet of galangal. I don't know if I'm enunciating right, the common name for chewing John root, because she now works for Dr. Buzzard, and that is his weapon. He is showing you a piece of the root. In the other hand, in which Lady Justice usually holds the scales, there is nothing, because his way is the only option. Instead, the scales are put to better use, collecting Dr. Buzzard's cigarette ashes. Dr. Buzzard was a real person from 1860 to 1947. His name is Stephen Robinson, and he was from St. Helena Island, South Carolina, and he was an attorney. He practiced law. So he was the first card that I pulled in this. So here we have this imagery of he's using these scales because on our planet, what has become man's law has become something that is unjust for so many people. And it only works in the favor of some other people. And so this is what I'm saying. And I need to make this very clear. If we're looking at injustice, and I'm just going to use Medgar Evers and Breonna Taylor as a masculine and a feminine issue of things, of people, of existence, of energies, and all the energies that are involved with it. So this happened, what happened to Medgar Evers happened so many years and decades before what happened to Breonna Taylor. But the energies that created what happened to them are the same. They are exactly the same. So these energies are reincarnating decades after decades and presenting themselves. Why? Why is this happening? Because we keep going to the same system. You see that courthouse in the background, and asking for justice to happen. We're asking the authority of people who said this, we're the authority. We're asking for that authority who do not even see us. And I don't mean just people of color. I just mean the people who do not benefit from justice system in the land, on the planet. And I don't just mean in America. I just mean period. You're saying, I want you to exercise authority. So you're giving all the authority of your life to these systems that don't even see you, don't believe that you exist, don't care anything about your problems, and they have created it in such a way that you can't even get in touch with the source, because they have claimed the source for themselves. I am God. Look, God looks like me. God is in my gender. God is in my consciousness. So you can't even get any help from that God. This is why it is very important that we practice indigenous, because you cannot use the same consciousness of an unjust system to ask for justice. You cannot. It doesn't work that way. So you have to go and use things that are in your arsenal. You have to use things that are in your arsenal, and you have to return to sender this energy that comes to you that says, in the story of Medgar Evers, is a young man in the prime of his life, has a job working in a town. He sees a woman that he considers beautiful. He whistles and say, wow, this woman is attractive, because that's what people like him do. Whenever they would see beauty, they would acknowledge it. So he happens to be in a particular skin package. She happens to be in a different skin package. She goes into her community and she says, this is happening. No, I don't know the energy behind all of that. What I do know so here's this woman, here's karma, here's judgment. She places judgment and say, something has to happen because I've been demeaned by this whistle. So this whistle is just a sound coming out of, his throat. Or, I don't know the body part that whistles, exactly come from. But this is what she does. Women have power. So I already established that masculinity is the authority. So femininity is the power. Femininity is the power. So she took her power and she reported it back to the authority. And that authority decided that they were going to be justice for this whistle, for this person. And they beat him beyond recognition. They hung him up. I'm not sure if they cut off his member or whatever, but they did a lot of, I need to go back and read the story. They did a lot of harm to this young man based on the fact that he whistled at a white woman. So when it was time for his death, the mortuary, they were going to have, he was so badly abused by this gang, this mob of white men who felt so outraged that a black person would whistle at a white woman. So this is the energy. These are the energies. And if you break these down, if you break all of this down to this consciousness of ego, it's still in the land. The audacity of this ideology of, I have the authority to abuse another human being because they whistled. I have the authority to take this person's life because they whistled. And I have the authority to not face justice for it. I have the authority to get away with this. At least this is what they're thinking. because that's what it looks like. It looks like because they have done this thing that they have gotten away with it. Of course, they didn't get away with it, because here we are, decades later, still talking about their shame, because it never got healed. It never got addressed. No compensation was made for the life that they took. Nothing, no retribution was made. And here's the thing: when you stack the scales and you don't do anything to balance them out, then guess what happens? Divine life force comes in and balances the scales out. So we're still talking about this today. We're still holding this out. Here I am in 2022, still using mega evers as a reference for energies that exist on the planet that have to be healed. Here I am now. I don't know if I have ancestral connection to him, but here I am now in my spiritual work, bringing his energy in to claim justice. So I'm doing spiritual work, and what the justice that I get for myself, the justice that I get for my family, the justice that I get for other people, I'm getting justice for Mega Evers and Mega Evers' mother, whose son they killed. I'm getting justice, but I'm not just getting justice for them. I'm getting justice for those ancestors that they left behind in that same energy that they didn't do anything to heal that work. I'm doing that because I'm sending those weapons back to them. I'm sending the weapons of distorted authority back. And I'm claiming my authority. And I'm using everything in my arsenal. See, the thing is, if people strip you from knowing who you are, then they also strip you from knowing the ways that you can protect yourself, knowing the ways of how you connect to or what's in your arsenal. Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know what your abilities are either. Or if somebody's telling you your abilities are what I say your abilities are, and your ability is this, and this, but if you've done no self infliction, if you've done no you've not looked at yourself, you've not discovered who you are, what you're capable are, what your skills are, what your skill set is, what your spiritual skill set is, and you will believe what people tell you. You will believe what you see outside of yourself, because that's what will become more real to you, and you'll be operating from fear, false evidence appearing real, because we live in a planet that is saturated with the energy of low vibrational energy of fear, because we've become people who believe what we see, as opposed to people of faith, that faith is here now, of believing the things that we can manifest for ourselves. So that's why we're still dealing with some of this stuff, because we're in spiritual adolescence. You're in spiritual adolescence because you don't even know your bloodline link. You don't know. Spiritual adolescence is like, if you grew up in a family who understood their power, who understood who they were, then you would take on that energy, and you would navigate the world as if you could not fail. And there are some cultures on this planet who do just that. And then we get mad that they're acting from that behavior system, and we get caught up in feeling like, they're being who they have decided they want to be, and it has nothing to do with us. And it's like, you're so busy, some of us are so busy waiting for other people to recognize who we are, and to say, oh, we recognize your greatness, now here, go on and be great. You don't need anybody's permission to be great. You don't need anybody's permission to recognize you. So the importance of understanding indigenous faith systems, or working with energies, and being very clear about who you are and what it is that you want, and trusting that you can manifest that and you don't need permission, that is a powerful place. That is walking in your masculine divinity, and it doesn't have anything to do with gender. It's about authority. So Dr. Buzzard didn't ask anybody's permission. And what's another interesting thing is some of the same tools that Dr. Buzzard used, they talk about conquering John Root or, different names for it. But in his autobiography, Frederick Douglass talks about a time that somebody, a person of African descent, gave him a root that was going to protect him. And it did protect him for a time. But the whole thing of that is using something that other people wouldn't understand, or tapping into an energy that other people wouldn't understand, or even give you permission, because that African didn't even have permission to be practicing. And Dr. Buzzard was even sued for practicing medicine. Now, he's practicing African faith systems, which is not, it's medicine in a sense to us because it heals. And it definitely heals against racism. It definitely heals against ego. It definitely heals against arrogance. It definitely heals against mobs of people who have a distorted divinity and they're acting from that distortion. It definitely heals against that, and it serves as blocks, and it serves as, brigades. And so everybody that came up against Dr. Buzzard would lose because he had such intense relationship with his ancestors. That's why it's so imperative that we have relationships with our ancestors, because they are going to help us enact justice. Do you know why George Floyd really created the movement that he did? First of all, these groups are planners. Anarchists and chaos people are planners. So he probably was targeted. So he probably was given a fake sense of currency. I know during the course of my time here, somebody mailed me a fake $5 bill. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I know what a real bill is and a fake bill is. But they have like means of ways that they target you to try to create this sense of criminalization and trap you. Like, they are such trappers. Like, they don't know how to fight fair. And when people who see themselves in war, they don't care about you. To them, you're a casualty of war, because in their mind, they're trying to create some world that really doesn't exist, because they're not even clear about what it is and how it's going to look. And they live under false knowledge, false wisdom, false understanding, and they keep trying. Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. Any group that tries to dominate the planet and say, only we, this is ours, especially from something that you're stolen, you're never going to have longevity with that, and it's never going to uphold. For one, everything has to come into balance. So if you live in a stolen land and then you cultivated that land with stolen people, it's been a time period that our ancestors have done the work of healing, have done the work of strength, have done the work that they need to do. So at some point, there's going to be a reckoning. You just, if you steal something, there's a consequence for stealing. I know that. Amen, sister. There's a consequence for stabbing people in the back. There's a consequence for violating people's trust. There's a consequence for mishandling your authority, which is what justice in reverse is. It is mishandling authority. It is abdicating authority. It is acting from distorted authority. It is abusing authority. And so the reckoning, this is the seasoning of reckoning that. And so if you pay very close attention to the things that are happening in your life, in your environment, you will see the scales begin to balance. You will see that. But you have to show honor to your ancestors. You have to show honor to the elders. You have to show honor to yourself. You have to show honor to the people who will allow you to love them. You have to show honor to your community. And it took me a long time to learn that my life is not just about myself. It's not just about myself. My healing is not just about myself, because my healing encompasses my ancestors, my elders, my children, and my children's children. Whether or not they receive that from me has nothing to do, that's none of my business. I'm responsible for healing my life and letting God deal with all the rest. So anyway, that's my take on the Dr. Buzzard card and this energy of returning. You know, this symbol, this came from the Greeks, of this ideology of returning evil eye that was sent to us, returning it. I believe that we return it so that it serves as a tool. And one of the major tools that I use it for, or that I intend to send back into the world when somebody sends me weapons, is you are going to bless me. This weapon you sent to me, I'm going to cleanse it, I'm going to bless it, and I'm going to send it back to you multiplied, because it's going to bless me. You are going to be in service of me. And that is the work that Dr. Buzzard did. That's the work that we're all called for, because we all came here that we should have life and have it more abundantly. All right, peace and blessings.